Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Business, where we try to meet local leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners. And today I am honored to sit with Captain Evan Love of the Hendricks County Sheriff's Department. Captain Love, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, certainly. I know you've been in law enforcement for some time now, and you're very involved with the community. Can you share a little bit about how long you've been with the law enforcement? How'd you get started?
Sure. So I started with the Hendricks County Sheriff's Office in November of 2004. I came right out of college. So I went to the University of Indianapolis. Law enforcement has always been part of our family. My grandfather was with the state police, was a detective there, and I always heard stories about him growing up as a kid, and it always interested me. So when I went to the University of Indianapolis, I started off studying criminal justice, then switched to business administration for a semester, and almost didn't make it through accounting. So I went back to criminal justice. So it was the best choice for me. I have no business being in business. So the University of Indianapolis has a great program as well. So I was able to go through the police academy through the university there, and then got hired on with the sheriff's office a couple weeks before I graduated the academy. So it was a really smooth transition for me. So I've been on for about 21 years. I started off as a deputy, worked my way up as a corporal and a sergeant. And then when Sheriff Jack Sadler came in, he promoted me to a lieutenant. And currently I'm the captain of the enforcement division. So I'm in charge of, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so you've been very involved with the sheriff's department. I've seen you have different organizations within our community. I know community is very important to you. Can you touch base a little bit on how involved you are?
Yeah, so the community is huge. We have to be involved in the community so they understand what we do, and we can communicate all the things that we're able to provide them and get them on board. We have to have the community support. Otherwise, it makes our job so much more difficult to do, right? Yeah. So I do my best to be involved in different community opportunities, events. I'm on the board of directors for the Sheltering Wings here in Danville. I've taken part with Leadership Hendricks County. I'm one of the mentors for their youth program as well. With the sheriff's office, I'm our crisis intervention team coordinator. So that's a training that we put on for law enforcement officers within the county and surrounding counties on how to better respond to people in mental health crisis. That's a huge thing in our world, more so today than it ever was when I first started. So that's a 40-hour training that we put on, and we partner with a lot of the mental health professionals within the community to help facilitate that training. The vast majority of that week is taught by mental health professionals within our community, teaching our officers. So it's a really important program. So I'm happy to be involved in that. I think it's a great training to have our officers go through.
Yeah.
So.
Well, on that note, you mentioned a few things. One is Sheltering Wings, and I know they have an event coming up.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about the event that they have coming up?
Yeah, so they have the premier event coming up soon.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's their big event, and it's a really good opportunity to come together. They have dinner, and there's a fundraising aspect to it, and it just provides more opportunities to the people that they serve to help them get through. Sometimes it's the worst experience they've ever had in their life, right?
Yeah.
It's a really good way to support those victims within our community.
And I know they have Men in Action coming up as well.
That's next week, Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, if you're a father, a dad, a male figure, right?
Yeah.
Any male figure, you can join. There's still spots available from the last I saw.
March 19th.
Yep, March 19th in the morning. And I'll post something about that here in a little bit. And then I know Leadership Hendricks County is a big deal with you as well.
Yes.
So there's opportunities for people to join that too. If somebody wanted to join and become a law enforcement officer, what are some steps that someone should take that's interested in maybe joining?
Sure. So when I started in 2004, I remember looking at the application for our sheriff's office, and the requirements were either 2 years of law enforcement experience or a bachelor's degree. So I obviously had the bachelor's degree, and I was able to submit an application. Today it's different. So that's not a requirement today. We teach you everything you need to know about law enforcement when we hire you. So we send you to the police academy. As soon as you get out of the police academy, we put you through a field training program, and we don't cut you loose on your own until you're ready to be out on your own. So all of that, the things that I went through isn't necessarily required today. So the advice I would give people is to, if you're interested in law enforcement, just apply. And if you get on someplace, great, they'll take care of you and they'll get you to where you need to be. In the meantime, our jail is a perfect place for someone to start their law enforcement career.
Yeah.
It's a great place. I didn't start off in the jail. I think I would have been further along had I spent some time back there,
Yeah.
learning how to interact with people, learning how to talk to people, de-escalate situations without having to use force. That would have benefited me quite a bit. So yeah, that's a great place to work. The pay is really well, the benefits are great, and it gets you that experience so that you can start building your resume for when you go out and try to get on full
Yeah.
time someplace on the road.
And I've seen I don't look at it every day, but from what I see on like posts and stuff from social media, take for what it is.
Sure.
But like I know that you mentioned the pay and benefits, they've greatly increased
Oh yeah.
throughout the years. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
we're really blessed to be working for the sheriff's office.
Yeah,
The county really does support us.
that's fantastic. Um, so there's certain, I'm guessing, there's certain traits or certain like personality that
Hmm.
someone should have if they go into law enforcement. Can you share a little bit about like
Sure.
what do you look for in someone that may be
Yeah.
interested?
You know, I think the biggest trait is integrity. You have to be a person of integrity to be able to do this job and be successful and to be trusted to do this job, right? Um, at the end of the day, we're problem solvers. We get called to people's homes when they're having their worst day ever, and they need our help to help solve that problem they're experiencing. So you have to be a problem solver. You have to think critically. Not everything in this job is black and white. There's a lot. We work in the gray quite a bit, and I've noticed that the people who have the black and white mentality sometimes can struggle with making certain decisions and making the best decision for everybody involved. So those are the types of traits we look at. You have to be physically fit. You have to be mentally fit. We deal with a lot of trauma in this job, so you have to be able to process that trauma in a healthy way so that you can make it the 30 years before
Oh yeah,
retirement, right? That's so important. We do some things here at the sheriff's office with our peer support team that helps with that more so than when I first started.
yeah,
Um, and again, I think that the biggest downfall, whether it's law enforcement or really any career field you out there, is pride. You have to keep your ego in check. This isn't a job to where you can show up on scene and start puffing out your chest and say, I'm the boss here, right?
yeah,
Pride will ruin people's careers. So you have to keep that ego in check to be able to be successful and in this job.
yeah.
So,
Um, with any job, I know community views
mhm.
certain individuals or businesses or owners or types of jobs, and law enforcement's one of them. What I guess, how can the community better understand what you do? Is there a
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception with us is, or I guess that the one thing that people don't necessarily appreciate or understand
Yeah,
is that, um, and I mentioned it before, the trauma that comes along with this job, the vicarious trauma that we experience.
yeah,
We again, I can tell you every time I've gone to somebody's home to let them know that one of their loved ones has passed away. I can tell you every one of those calls I've ever taken. They're the worst.
hmm,
All the sad scenes that I've gone to, I carry that with me every single day. And I'm not saying that it's the same as those people who actually lived it, but it's something that we do carry, and it takes its toll. And I think it takes more of a toll than people realize in the community. So, um, and that's why I think officer wellness is so important
Yeah.
in this job. We want to make sure officers make it their entire career, and then enjoy their retirement when they're done. We want them to live for another 30 years and drain our pension because they're living so long,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, in law enforcement, that just doesn't happen. There's stats out there that say, a lot of law enforcement officers pass away within the first 5 years of their retirement, and that's unfortunate
Sure.
because
Yeah.
they've given so much of themselves to the community that they serve. They should be able to enjoy that time when they're
Most certainly.
so
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. So
Yeah.
we're like I said, we're better today than we were in the past. So
That's
we're
good.
making strides.
Great. We're going to kind of switch gears here to driving and drivers on the road.
Sure.
So you see drivers every day. What's one of the biggest, I guess, most unsafe or biggest mistakes that you see drivers making on the road?
Sure. Well, when I was a lieutenant for 2 years, and one of my responsibilities was checking all the crash reports that our officers complete. And I'll tell you, it was the same then as it is currently with our current lieutenant who does that job. It's driver inattention or distracted driving. That's the biggest problem that we see, and that causes so many crashes in our community, whether it's not paying attention and running through a stop sign and hitting somebody, not paying attention and not realizing the road curves and you drive off the roadway. Those types of crashes, driving too fast and certain weather conditions is a big problem. If we could do a better job at just focusing on what we're doing, I think we would all be safer. So to me, that's the biggest problem.
And can you share? You mentioned distracted driving, and some may not understand what distracted driving means. Like myself, first thing that comes to mind is obviously a cell phone in the hand.
Yeah.
But there's some other means of distracted driving.
Oh, absolutely.
Correct?
Yeah. I mean, again, cell phones are the big one. They're so distracting, whether it's you're trying to text or talk on the phone, or even follow the map on your phone, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on that as you're driving. Those are huge sources of distraction. But it also includes radios, people in your car distracting you by conversation, eating. All those things are distractions, and it's. I'm not saying you, like I said, other than the cell phone, you're not supposed to be using your cell phone while you're driving anymore. But the other things that I mentioned, I'm not saying you can't do those, but pay attention to the task at hand, right?
Yeah, you only have so many hands.
You're the one driving. You need to pay attention to driving.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of similar to the next question or statement. If drivers listening could change one habit today, what could that be to help reduce accidents or rage on the roadway?
Yeah, I think if we all, as a society in general, could just be a little bit more patient with each other, that would solve a lot of our problems, and give everybody a little bit of grace too, because we make mistakes, right? I'm not a perfect driver. Nobody's a perfect driver. There are times where in my police car, I'll be driving around and think that I have the right of way, and I start to turn and realize, oh, I don't. And I do my best to wave and apologize to those people so they don't think I'm an idiot. But we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So if we could have a little bit more patience with each other, and not rush through life. I think if you give yourself an extra 10 minutes of a cushion when you're driving, that would cause you to be less anxious while you're driving, less hurried. Whether it's driving or any other thing, when you are in a rush to get something, that's when mistakes happen, right? So, and it's no different with driving.
And that's a great point that you bring up, because when I sit down and people talk about insurance rates on my end, and that's one thing that I mentioned is people have become more aggressive. They have to get from A to B in such a hurry. Causes more accidents.
Absolutely.
So speaking of mistakes, if somebody were to get pulled over, I know people get very nervous when they see the lights behind them. What's the best, I guess, if there is a best, what's the best first tip or first step when someone gets pulled over?
Sure. Like I said, I completely understand why people get nervous, right? I get nervous when I'm driving around on my pickup truck and I see a cop behind me, right? We all get it never goes away, right? But I think the first thing is if you see the red and blue lights behind you, whether you feel like you're getting pulled over or you feel like maybe they're trying to get past the traffic to go to an emergency call, I think if you just acknowledge that that we're behind you, maybe by pushing your hazards on or turning your turn signal to get over to the right, I think that's the first good step. That way, if we are going to an emergency run, you're indicating to us that you see us, and it's now safe for us to pass you, as opposed to if you just stop say we're driving down the emergency lane or the fast lane and you just start slowing down. We don't know quite what you're going to do. And the concern is if we pass you on the left or on the right, the last thing we want you to do is to change lanes on us, right? So I think if you acknowledge us, turn your hazards on, turn your right turn signal on so you can get over to the right, that's a good first step.
Yeah. Um, and I guess that kind of leads into what helps make a stop smoother. But I think that you kind of just answered that question.
Well, I'll
safer.
also add, once you do get pulled over, if you do get pulled over, I think the number one thing to do is just to keep your hands on the steering wheel. If we can account for someone's hands in a vehicle, that brings our anxiety level down so much. I think because everybody knows when you get pulled over, you got to have your license, registration, insurance card. So I think a lot of people, when they do realize they're getting pulled over, as soon as they get stopped, they start looking for all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
and I understand it's an innocent thing. It's a human reaction to getting pulled over is you start looking for that stuff, but it just makes us nervous when we walk up and you're digging through your car. We don't know this is the first time we've ever met you. We don't know if you have pure intentions or dangerous intentions, right? So like I said, traffic stops, we have all the time in the world. You just keep your hands on your steering wheel, and then we'll ask for the information, and then you can grab it for us. So
and I mean that makes so much sense, because if I dart towards the glove compartment, all of a sudden, it's going to send a signal to you.
I may be running back to my car for cover, right? Because you just don't know.
Sure,
it's traffic stops are a very dangerous thing that we have to do. So,
and then on my end, like obviously with the insurance, how important or why is insurance on your end? Why is that important to have?
I mean, it's the law. It's required, right? So if we pull somebody over and they're not able to produce insurance, or we determine they don't have insurance on the vehicle, I mean, you can get a citation for it. At the end of the day, you can't have that car on the road without it being insured. So there's a possibility that we tow it, and you can't get that out of impound until you produce us a valid insurance card, right? So, and then even it just protects you from potentially things happening, right? So if you crash your car, if you have insurance, it just protects you. And one of the things I don't think people realize is if you do crash your car, whether it's your fault or not, you're required by the state to produce them a valid insurance, right? So there's an online form that has to be filled out saying that you had insurance at the time of that crash. And if the state doesn't get that information, they'll automatically suspend your license. And then that is just more money that you have to fork out to get that license reinstated, right? So I know insurance is expensive, but it's so much more expensive for you if you don't have it and something bad happens, right? So,
and it's the law.
And it's the law, right? So tickets aren't cheap. Impounds aren't cheap. Getting your license reinstated is not cheap either. So it's just so much easier and safer, and it's the law to just have insurance, right? At least some form, right? Yeah.
As a driver, is there anything that I should keep in my car in the case of an emergency that you would recommend?
Sure. I would say make sure you have everything you need to change a tire. I think at the end of the day, right? One thing that I have in my police car that I just recently bought was a floor jack. That makes my job so much easier. So when I pull up on somebody who maybe doesn't have that equipment or doesn't have the knowledge, it's so much easier to pull that floor jack out and jack up the car as opposed to messing with the hand crank one or whatever. So that just makes my job easier. But they make these multi-tools as well. It's got a window punch, seatbelt cutter, flashlight, all that kind of stuff built into one thing. And I think that's a really good tool to have maybe in your door panel or in your glove box or something like that in case of an emergency and you have to get out of your car quickly. I think that's a good tool to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. Um, so switching again over to like roadside safety for law enforcement, we have what's in Indiana at least. It's called Indiana Move Over Law.
Hmm.
I think Move Over Law.
Hmm.
Can you explain like what is that? Why do we have?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think people appreciate that law unless you've been at the driver's side window of a car on 36 or I-70 or I-74 and you have cars zipping by you.
Mm-hmm.
One of my state trooper buddies told me one time he was out on a traffic stop on the interstate and the car got so close to him that the passenger side mirror rubbed up against the back of his shirt. And these shirts are polyester. So if you get them too hot, they burn. He had a burn mark on the back of his
Oh my
shirt from
gosh.
it. Yeah, it is so dangerous. And people um, are required by law to move over in a multi-lane road, move over to the left lane, and give us some space to operate, right? Because you just never know. We may be up at the driver's side window, but something may happen to where we have to retreat back. We may end up getting into that slow lane because something's happening in the car, and if that lane's not clear, we're going to get hurt or
Yeah.
killed, right? So there's plenty of examples of, especially recently with state troopers, they've been getting hit on the interstate way more than it should happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's just so important to either slow down to almost a crawl or get over into the left lane. And I understand there are some situations where physically you just cannot fit into the left lane. And if that's the case, that's fine. Just slow down to a crawl so that we understand that you understand that there's a traffic stop or a crash happening and everybody's safe.
Can somebody get a citation if they don't move
Yes.
over?
Yeah, there are plenty of examples of officers out on traffic stops and they cut and somebody drives by and does not get over. Sometimes they'll just cut the person loose that they had stopped and they'll go chase down that person and
Yeah.
that person gets a ticket and this
Right.
person gets off with a warning, right? So again, it's just a safety issue for everybody involved.
Sure. Yep. If you could give a driver one piece of advice to stay safer on the road,
Mm-hmm.
I think we might have mentioned this earlier, but is there anything different that you would mention?
Yeah.
What would that be?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things I mentioned would apply to that question, but um, one thing that I think that people can do that would save them potentially getting hurt or killed is just to take a moment at a traffic light. As soon as that light turns green, just take a moment and
Mm-hmm.
pause
Certainly.
and just take a look to your left or to your right or approaching you and just make sure everybody else is on the same page as you. Is that, if I'm traveling north through an intersection, I'm going to look both eastbound and westbound lanes to make sure that they're coming to a stop or acknowledging the red light before I accelerate through that intersection. There's plenty of examples. I've had it happen to me where, had I not taken that second, I would have been hit by
Mm-hmm.
cars coming the opposite direction. So just like I said, just take a moment, make sure everybody's aware, and before you go through that intersection.
And I've shared with people like it doesn't matter how many times that person behind me is honking at me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna wait
yeah,
a couple seconds. You can keep honking.
yeah.
I'm gonna wait till I know that it's clear so I don't get.
Yeah. And that is one of my pet peeves is when you're behind somebody that is clearly not paying attention and the light is green. And you have to honk at them. You feel bad honking, but you have to honk at them to get them to go through the intersection. But I think that I can tell the difference between that and somebody that's just slowly creeping in an intersection and looking
Checking
both ways,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference than this and that, right?
Yeah, certainly. Anything else that you would like to share? We have one more piece. It's called rapid fire questions. But anything else that you would like to share with the public on either your career, law enforcement, safety, anything in general?
No, I appreciate working in Hendricks County. I have friends, all over the state, and I can tell you that some agencies do not get the kind of support that we do in Hendricks County. We're very, very lucky to have the support. I can't tell you how many times I've been at the drive-through and somebody in front of me has paid for my
Mm-hmm.
coffee, or we've been out at dinner with a bunch of officers, and people have come up and said, thank you for what you do every day. Or you go to pay your bill and the entire table's bill's paid for.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, not every county is that lucky. And so we're really grateful and blessed to be working and serving the people of Hendricks County. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
Well, thank you, and we're blessed to have you
Oh,
as our captain of Hendricks County now. And thank you again for everything that you do. But before we get out, before we finish, I do have rapid fire questions
All right.
here. So
Let's do it.
let me grab these.
I'm sweating.
It's not that bad. So first thing that kind of comes to your mind, coffee, energy drink, or soda?
Okay. So you got to go coffee in the morning or coffee at the beginning of your shift.
Yeah.
And then if you're still tired, because when I was on the road, we worked 12-hour days, right? So I would go coffee in the morning or coffee at the start of my shift. And then if I was tired, maybe after the 6-hour mark, I do an energy drink or a soda. You can't go soda in the morning. So you got to go coffee and then transition out of coffee into the other stuff.
There's a method to the madness.
There's a progress. Right? Yeah, there's a progression there.
Your biggest driving pet peeve?
That's funny. I think I think being I was going to say being behind somebody that's stopped at the light and they're not paying attention. But my biggest one, I would say, is people just cruising in the fast lane, cruising in the left lane, and they see 40 cars behind them and they just refuse to get over.
Oh my gosh,
The left lane and the right lane, they have specific names. The right lane is the travel lane. The left lane is the passing lane. You're not supposed to travel in the left lane, the passing lane. That's for passing. So if you want to travel, just get over to the right lane and let everybody else get around you.
I'm glad that you brought. I mean, yes, and it can cause accidents.
Yeah.
And rage and stuff.
Oh, sure,
that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it does.
Favorite snack to have in your car?
You got to have the pizzeria combos. Those are key when you're driving around. That's a good snack to have when you go to the gas station. I always gravitate towards the combos for some reason. Yeah, they're great.
And we might have mentioned this earlier. Something everyone should keep in their car.
Yeah, I would go back to that multi-tool.
Yeah.
But in the wintertime, I would say make sure you have something in there. If your car breaks down or you get into a crash and it, especially in the heavy snow, sometimes it takes us a while to get to you. Make sure you have stuff in there to keep yourself warm. So just blankets or an extra jacket or something like that. That's a good safety tip, I think.
I can always think about my mom always telling me, you got to keep that blanket, during the winter months, or extra jacket or coat.
Sure.
In there. So best advice that you have for a new or veteran driver?
So the best advice I give to a brand new driver, because I don't remember them teaching me this in driver's ed school, is practice driving off the edge of the road and safely getting back on the road, right? I've noticed that a lot of crashes are caused by people, maybe they're not paying attention, they drive off the edge of the road and they panic and they jerk the wheel over to the left to get back onto the road. And what that does, it just sends you into a spin. We call overcorrecting. They're overcorrecting, and that causes them to kind of lose control. So I always tell parents of brand new drivers to go out on a county road and practice that. Drive off the edge of the road and then just slowly, gradually get yourself back on the road.
Yeah.
That'll save you so much problems with
crashes.
Because
you can get the feel of how it's dragging you down.
Yeah, because it does want to suck you down. But if you just slowly, gradually get yourself back on the road, it's way better than jerking the wheel.
Yeah, that's a valid point. This is sort of an odd question, but I don't know if you're into movies, but your favorite police movie?
Well, as a kid, Police Academy I thought was the funniest thing ever, especially the guy that makes the voices. I thought that was hilarious. But I would think here lately, The Departed is a really good movie. Yeah, I really like that movie. Yeah.
Awesome. What's a myth about police work?
I think the biggest myth, and I think it's just from Hollywood, is that you see the movies or the TV shows where somebody gets arrested, and as they're putting the handcuffs on, the officer starts reading them their Miranda rights, right? And I've had people say that. We get to the jail and they say, hey, you never read me my rights. there's certain specific situations where we have to do that. But if I'm serving an arrest warrant on somebody, I put the handcuffs on and I take it. I don't have to read you your Miranda rights. So I think that's the biggest myth is that there are certain situations where we have to do that by, it's your constitutional right, right? But then in a lot of situations, we just don't. We don't have to because it's not necessary. That's
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have you ever, or do you ever rehearse your siren voice? And what I mean by that is the voice that you have a speaker on your cruiser. Do you ever practice that voice?
There is a different tone. I call it my big boy voice. It's the voice I use when I'm knocking on a door or making announcements. Yeah, you have to have I'm not very good at it, so you have to have a strong big boy voice if you want to do this job, and a good solid police knock. Yeah, you have to. We practice that in field training. So use your big boy voice.
The last question, and we'll wrap this up here. Most rewarding part of what you do?
I think at the end of the day, whether I'm in this position or if I was out on the road patrolling, I think the most rewarding thing that I'm able to do is just help people. Help people on their worst day ever, right? It's a privilege, it's an honor, it's a huge obligation to be the person that responds to somebody in that situation, right? And like I said, we're really lucky to work in this county and have the support and have the people that we do. People really do appreciate what we do, and they appreciate when somebody's whether it's somebody's trying to break into their house or something as simple as they lock their keys in their car. Mm-hmm. They're always appreciative of the fact that we're the ones responding and helping them out in that situation. So, like I said, we're really lucky.
Well, fantastic. And I'm lucky and honored to be sitting here with you for this podcast interview.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some nuggets that people can gain. And I appreciate you watching another episode of Inside the Business. If you'd like to be part of this show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a text, give me a call, or email. Captain Love, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you.
And if we can ever help you, let us know.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.